Well, guess I'm one of the good guys.
And we're live. I thought we might start this video mid-action like we're in a James Bond movie. Welcome back to part 23 of the full game commentary. We're looking at the end of chapter 2. We have 2 missions left, so why not take the week off and go find Mary Beth a pen? Here we are. Note the smoke coming out of the door. Kick open both doors before you enter. Here is your map, Osmond Grove, almost equidistant between Emerald Station and Mosey Flats. Looks like everyone in here died of CO2 poisoning, and it also looks like Arthur really doesn't care. Otis Miller and the Black-Hearted Lady. Kinda want to read this book. I won't, but you know I want to. And I'm sure there are pens all over the map, especially in Saint Denis, but Mary Beth wants this pen. And then we can collect all of the supplies. There's a loft up here and a ladder, but we cannot access the loft. So of course I am very curious as to what might be up there. Moving on.
Yep. You good, girl?
Now this is a particularly creepy stranger encounter for Arthur.
Fire's good and hot.
Mister?
Mi casa, su casa, friend. So, you got a girl, mister? Me neither. Got my eye on one, though. I was hunting north of Annesburg when I came across this cabin. And there's no one there but this woman. Bit bony, but beautiful as the day is long. Real elegant fancy type, too. I see how you like 'em too, friend. Don't know what she's doing out there in the middle of nowhere, but turns out she's a widow. She asked me to leave, but in a real nice way. Made me feel good. I watched her from the bushes for a while, saw her cry. I think this is a place I could really hang my saddle. A hot dinner and warm bed every night. Don't sound bad to me at all. All right, I need to cool down a bit.
He's talking about Charlotte Balfour, who we won't meet until chapter 6.
You know, get out of my sight, now! You don't need to do this! You better make yourself scarce!
And I promised Arthur would do him harm if we ever saw him again, and we intend to. But first, let's check out his camp. He has quite an extensive collection of 19th century erotica, including the Otis Miller erotic postcards. And a dolly. I'm not sure why, but it's not anything good.
Somebody help me!
We might as well raid his supplies too.
Help me!
So, what you got?
I was hoping he had a letter. I think a fair trade for all those supplies is a stick of dynamite. Arthur is nothing if not fair.
Should you? You done good, girl. Hey there!
Let's give Mary Beth her pen.
Good morning.
There she is.
Hey, Sadie.
Morning, Arthur. Hey.
Good morning, Arthur.
So, I got hold of that fountain pen for you.
Oh, thank you, Arthur. Here, please take this.
You could help,
Something I acquired along the way.
More suited to the supervisory role. I'm watching you do that.
And she gives Arthur a ring, a literal gold wedding ring, and then runs away. And Arthur will probably just sell it at the fence. Well, all things being equal, it's probably for the best. Camp would get awkward if Arthur were actually aware of just how much Mary Beth likes him. He'd probably stay away even more than he already does.
You seem a bit happier.
Yes, I'm feeling good.
Let's trigger the Hosea request. But first, let's have the Reverend mess up our shot.
Morgan, thank you.
Don't worry about it, Reverend.
I made a fool of myself again.
We've all done that, Reverend.
I'm bitterly ashamed. Really, I am.
All we have to do is pick up this book, which I also really want to read. I like this request because Hosea doesn't actually ask for a new book. Arthur just takes it on himself because, you know, it's Hosea. I would be happy to find him a new book. And speaking of books, let's go find Jack's book. But along the way, we'll explore this burnt-out section of forest. I always imagined the Limpany Blaze started here. And here is your location by the Inn in New Hanover, just outside of camp. And we really should pay off that bounty we incurred breaking Micah out of the Strawberry Jail. And after we inspect and draw the site, we can loot this lockbox for some Miracle Tonic, the Volatile Fire Bottle Pamphlet, and a gold nugget. Nice. Moving on.
Come on, girl.
Again, there are many books across the map, but Jack wants this book that is located here at Downs Ranch. Mr. Downs is gone and the new rancher is hostile, and that dog will also be hostile, so do this fast and try not to engage, or you'll end up having to shoot a dog.
You okay, boy?
Wild West Heroes number 112. There are, of course, supplies in here, but the rancher's gone, and let's not push our luck. Hosea's book is just outside of Saint Denis. Here is your map. Hagen Orchards, west of the Inn in Lemoyne. There are guards here, and they are humorless and hostile. Hosea's book is here on the coffee table.
Okay, my girl.
And there's the guard on patrol. And finally, Tilly had something to say to us.
And about, I think I found something interesting.
What's that, Tilly?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. Something about the doctor's office. There's something funny going on there. Saw a bunch of nasty boys going in and none of them coming out.
Thank you. Maybe I'll go take a look. Anything else?
No, just that.
Well, keep looking.
Will do.
Will do. Good job, Tilly.
Anyway, I won't disturb you.
All right, Arthur.
Okay, the doctor's office. We don't actually need the Tilly conversation to activate this event. I just like talking to Tilly.
Hey there, mister.
I just want to get a drink.
I do like to park the horse well out of harm's way. It will make for an easier getaway.
Give a fella a nickel.
Hey, boy.
Let's go around the back and try to look in this window. And there's no prompt, so let's knock on the door.
What do you want?
This is private. Get lost.
Something shady going on in there. He looks like an O'Driscoll.
Hey, mister.
Howdy, friend.
Morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, mister.
Morning, friend.
Morning.
Good morning to you.
Ah, I remember that face. My medicine's been keeping you healthy. Hey, put that damn gun down!
Let me into that back room of yours right now.
Sir, please. You don't want to get involved with them, I promise you.
You make them open up, or you're a dead man.
Hey, open up! It's me! I brought some food and whiskey for you fellers.
Yeah, it's only the doc.
Don't try anything funny.
Thought you were that cowpoke who bothered us earlier. Put it on the table.
Looks like a nice Going back here? God damn it! What the hell? Shit. Dumb move.
Come on with your hands up.
And here is our free Schofield. We can upgrade it later. We might as well field test it now.
Hey, stand down. Hands in the air.
Don't let yourself get pinned down. Take the fight to them and shoot your way out of there.
You fixing the guy.
Horse took a hit, but she'll be fine.
That's my girl.
And here, my friends, is a good place to stop. I hope you enjoyed watching this commentary as much as I enjoyed making it. We need to pay off all our bounties and then go up north and go see what Micah wants. However, I cannot help myself and I do need to read these books. It's a compulsion. The Case of the Shrew in the Fog, number 6 in a series of Aldous Filson mysteries. Filson sniffed contemptuously. The problem with you chaps at Scotland Yard is you wouldn't know how to catch a murderer if he wrote his name in blood on your desk. It's like I always say, a frail heart never caught a fair break, he said. Filson was the smartest man in the whole empire. He was dismissive of lesser men, but also kindly and courteous. He and I had at this point lived together as best friends in our bachelor apartments overlooking Westminster for many happy months. I knew his capricious ways by this point. I laughed uproariously. "You're a funny one and no mistake, Mr. Filson," said Bender, somewhat put out by the more educated man's ways. "Why, Mrs. Bender says that to me. Yes, she does. She says he's a funny one, that Mr. Filson, but then she's a funny one too." The fog rolled down the streets of the magnificent capital city particularly thickly that night, like some thick fog rolled in a thick fashion. Filson cocked an eyebrow, cockishly. "Well, Bender, I've done all I can. I suppose it's true what they say, you can lead Muhammad to water, but you cannot make him a mountain." I ejaculated uproariously. I knew Filson's ways. When he spoke in riddles like this, it meant only one thing. The riddle was for him over. Soon he would be lethargic and bored, consuming morphine and consorting with all types of people in a bid to quell his lethargy. But now, with the scent of blood and victory in his nostrils in that foggy capital city, he snorted provocatively. I'd wager, Bender, I'd wager that in less than 8 seconds the man you want will walk through that door. Impossible, Filson, derided Bender, but I knew when it came to my special friend the impossible was commonplace. Slowly, Filson counted to 8. And then we heard a knock at the door, and in walked a tiny old lady. Come in, my dear, said Filson kindly, and then in an instant, like a cat moving in a cat-like way, he locked the door and pulled out his revolver. Gentlemen, this old shrew is the most dangerous man in all of England. Gentlemen, this woman is Sir Angus Malcontent. In a trice, the most remarkable thing happened. The old shrew transformed into the most dangerous man in England right in front of my eyes. I gasped. The expert swordsman, duelist, and tiger hunter, the most immoral man in the entire kingdom was here in front of my eyes, and ready to kill. Filson was on him in a flash, like a flashing cat, but like a caged animal in a corner. Sir Angus fought back. I thought about joining in, but it was simply too thrilling to watch the 2 best men in all of England go at it, hammer and tongs. The bravest, truest, and most intelligent, fighting the most dangerous, falsest, and most cunning. Sir Angus wielded a mighty weapon, but no matter how big a man's weapon, if I knew my confrere, Aldous Filson could handle it. He grabbed and parried and parried and grabbed. My lord, I ejaculated, this is too much, and it was. Filson tied Sir Angus literally into knots, using his own arms. I bet you didn't know, Bender, that I studied the ancient art of Jumanji. That is, tying an opponent into knots using yoga. Incredible, I ejaculated once again, but it was all in a day's work for Aldous Filson. London slept extra sweetly that night. The end. Wild West Heroes, Jim Boy Calloway, issue number 132, Mexican Ballad of Blood, chapter 7. Jim Calloway had been a rancher and a scout in the army, but still, he knew the risks of traveling through this ravine at night. If captured, banditos knew him to be the deputy sheriff, and torture would be his fate. He reloaded his rifle and revolvers, felt for his knife, and with caution snuck along the ridge in the moonlight. There would be, without question, Mexican sentinels posted and on the lookout. But Jim was not scared. Jim was a hero. Women loved him, and he shot men in the face, not in the back. Death did not frighten him, only dishonor did, and not a bad guy alive would stop him. The banditos had sealed off all the roads leading to Fort Ballard, and provisions had been stolen en route. A message had managed to make it out well on 35 days ago, and the news was grim. The fort had been overrun by an outlaw gang who had taken the residents hostage. Many inside the fort were sick and starving, but that didn't explain the presence of a ragtag bunch of ex-Mexican army soldiers surrounding the place. Jim aimed to find out. In the moonlight, he could see the circle of banditos surrounding that fort, and along the base of the hills loading up to it were cook fires where more Mexicans were camping. 200 ponies were seen in the valley feeding. He waited with stolid patience for night to deepen, and then was on the move. With the caution of a panther, he made a steep descent into the valley. 2 sentries were on either side of him, silent as ghosts. He slowly snuck through, then saw what looked like to be their leader, for he was dressed as a Mexican general and standing not 20 paces distant. The general stopped and listened. Jim Calloway did not want to spill blood, but he had no choice. He had to get to that fort. He slowly moved on the general, preparing his knife, ready to grab his throat and drive the knife deep into his heart. Suddenly, white-hot pain exploded through his hand as a gunshot rang out, his knife having been shot out of his grasp. His feet were kicked out from under him, and a Schofield revolver was pointed in his face. "Jim Boy Calloway, what are you doing wearing that deputy badge?" the man holding the revolver scoffed. "You keep jumping from one side of the fence to the other. You might just get impaled upon it." "I could say the same thing about you, Landon Ricketts," Calloway scoffed. I heard you and your brother opened up a brothel. What makes a buffalo hunter, saloon keeper, gold miner, and now brothel hunter put on a badge? Ricketts said. Cameron Fitch is holed up in that fort. He killed my brother in Blackwater, and I aim to kill him. Damn you, Ricketts, don't get in my way, Calloway replied. That man you nearly cut open is General Emiliano Salgato. He hates Finch as much as you do, Ricketts said. They killed his wife and have his daughter prisoner in that fort. That walking beer keg Colonel Baldwin damn near let the outlaws walk in the front door. He and his men were so drunk. Rumor is, though, that they're getting desperate inside since the supplies have been cut off. A cry rang out like a trumpet from one of the banditos posted as a lookout. The front doors of the fort had opened up and a raiding party of dozens of men were headed directly for them. You still the fastest left-handed draw, or have you gone soft? Ricketts said. You didn't hear about them 14 men I killed at Lucy Hollow? Calloway replied. I heard you shot some of them in the back, Ricketts responded. They deserved it, Calloway said. Ricketts grinned. The renegades were riding hard in their direction, and the Mexicans had steadied their rifles in anticipation. Calloway sniffed and drew his rifle. He took aim down the sight and casually pulled the trigger. A man, far off in the distance, fell off his horse. The air was filled with blood and lead, and soon every man was fighting for his life. Landon Ricketts suddenly let out a yell, saying, Otis Miller and the Black-Hearted Lady, number 186 in a series of original tales of Otis Miller's adventures. Anne looked across the arroyo and sat her horse and leaned over and spit in the dry dirt running with cracks from 100 days of beating sun. I don't know too many women take after chewing tobacco like that, the man said. I don't know too many one-eyed Injuns, Black Belle replied. Fact, I'm not used to traveling with company. Slows me down. She motioned her horse over the scree and blinked into the sun and spat again. He followed her down the gully, through some scrub brush and past the charred vestiges of a wagon long since burned, and the remains of a driver still sat in the seat, having been picked clean by the buzzards. Apaches, most like. He sniffed the air. Yup, she spat again. You ever tangle with them? I did. Got into a scrap with some Mexicans in a ravine outside Chuparosa. 2 Apache warriors got caught rustling those Mexicans' horses. They lit over the edge of this ditch running from musket fire and damn near fell into my lap. We had to cut each other up, each of us having our knives out. When some more sense kicked in and we realized all 3 of us was going to be dead by the hands of them Mexicans if we didn't join together. They almost smirked when I grabbed my rifle. I don't think they ever seen a woman hold much other than a baby. I laid down next to a rock, grabbed a bite from a plug of tobacco, propped up my rifle, and took out 3 shooters from across the ravine. What did you do then? Hell, went and got them horses, traded them and moved on. I mean, with the Apaches. I camped with a band of them at the old Presidio, stayed up half the night sharpshooting and drinking Tiswin. You ever had it? Can't say I have. It's a rot gut they brew out of corn. Have you so liquored you'll chew buckskin and think it's venison. Still, hell of a mess the military caused with all them folk. Good people. Should have let them Apaches be. Instead, they brought 'em nothing but suffering. Black Belle grabbed her hat and beat it on her leg twice and watched the dust flow rise up through a cottonwood tree as she put it back on. She spat. You see that valley off yonder? I do. That's where Otis Miller and his boys are set up at the old Danville homestead. Must have 100 head of cattle and 30 good horses. I aim to steal them. She spat again. Black Belle, a voice helloed from the top of a mesa. You ain't gonna do no such thing. A shot landed and caused her horse to amble sideways and whinny. She wheeled her horse around and looked up. Otis, I knew you were up there. Damn, you make a hell of a racket. You couldn't sneak up on a deaf mute. Why don't you come down here so we can talk about them horses? I stole them fair and square, Belle. Ain't nothing fair about stealing, Otis, especially considering who you stole them from. Who's that? Me. She cracked off a shot into the sunlight and laughed. A cry of pain came from up above. You dang near shot my eye out. If I wanted your eye out, it would be out, she shouted. Is that ornery two-bit brother of yours up there with you? I am. Get on down here and stop messing around. It's too damn hot for this foolishness. Dust kicked up on the barren horizon in a rolling plume as they turned their horses to face it. The one-eyed Indian looked at her. Black Belle was no normal lady. The Case of the Deceitful German, number 18 in a series of Aldous Filson mysteries. London lay enveloped in a thick blanket of fog. It hung like a blanket that has been hung up from a place you hang things from, in the ancient but bustling city. The most wonderful and awful place in the entire world was both pretty and sinister, like a young girl who tempts a bachelor into marriage, or a jewel that tempts a man into murder. These were my thoughts as I sat by doing the things a gentleman does while idly waiting for an adventure to start at the beginning of a story. And just as our last adventures had ended, so a new adventure was about to begin. I knew it, and Aldous Filson knew it. Even our rooms knew it, or they seemed to, as an expectant air hung about the place, much like the fog, both hanging together like two friends who live together and ejaculate together in surprise. And that, dear reader, is precisely what we did next. My God, I ejaculated. Upon my word, gasped Filson. Yes, even Filson, the most brilliant man in the empire, detective, yogi, sage, scientist, organist, raconteur, occasional thief, patriot, and expert in 1,000 other subjects besides, even he was surprised. Upon my word, he repeated, still surprised, what are you doing here? For standing in front of us, as if he had not been last seen, locked up in a tower on a tropical island awaiting certain doom, was the worst man in all of Europe. The most dastardly, most Germanic, most domineering and injudicious Baron von Schwarzhardt. Needless to say, his weapon was drawn. I did not come here for revenge, Herr Filson, he drawled Germanically. Then why are you here? I spluttered enormously. Firstly, to prove that even the best man in Great Britain is no match for a German aristocrat, something the look in both your faces demonstrated as I walked through the door, and secondly, to offer you a deal. The Baron's eye patch twitched as he spoke. Only a fool would trust a man like him, and Filson was no fool. He was an Englishman first and foremost. I make no deals with the likes of you, Baron, but I acknowledge that your escape surprised even me, and it is over 5 years since I last ejaculated in surprise. Whereas I do almost every day, I interposed. That's because, my dear friend, you are one of life's innocents. I was stung, like a person who has just been stung by a bee or even a scorpion by this admonition that cut me hard. But I grinned and bore it, for Filson could be unkind, but I forgave him. And now I think of it, he was like a scorpion, cunning, baffling, and with a sting in his long tail. This was something the Baron had forgotten. London was shrouded in mysterious fog. The German was cunning, and yet Filson was more foggy, mysterious, and cunning than both of them combined. In a trice he had disarmed the Baron and had a rapier held quivering against his chin. Now, my dear Baron, if you don't want me to penetrate you like a fish with this sword, tell me just who you are and what you are doing. I'm the Baron von Schwarzhardt, he gasped, but as he spoke, his disguise began to slip. Stood before us was not a German at all, but even worse, a woman. I'm Superantonio. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your views. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell for daily Red Dead Redemption 2 content, and we shall meet again. Further on down the trail.
Good girl. Just what the hell is going on here?